Hey everyone, Blade here, and welcome to my Matoi build guide, where I'll be going over her dupes, skill priorities, best weapons, gear sets, and team comps, and more to help you guys utilize her abilities if you decide to pull for her or already have pulled for her. Let's go ahead and get started. To start, Matoi is our first 5-star technical ice debuffer here, in which when she immediately released, she became the best debuffer in the game, especially for her AoE capabilities. Now, she is only meant for mainly that AoE side of things here, so she does still lack a little bit on the single target side of things, but it doesn't hurt her too much at all. In fact, it truly does help her out from a huge standpoint, seeing that the AoE side of things did need a little bit of a buff at the end of the day. The magic mainly starts with her first 2 passes that she ends up having, being called Pressure and Shelter. Pressure itself allows the damage, or at least the more damage that she can deal to enemies with a freeze ability on them. So as long as they have a freeze element on them, she's able to deal even more damage than she would normally do. And with the amount of things that she has in her kit that provides this said freeze status effect, she'll always have this extra damage taken effect on the opponent at hand. So you don't really have to worry about that at all when it comes down to it. Then of course we have the next passive, which is called Shelter. This one revolves around her other side of the kit being with her technicals here. The more technicals that she ends up hitting, or every time that she hits this said technical, she'll give allies a 1050 fixed shield for 2 whole turns here, which her best in slot team being Ren Chinese New Year technical team here leads this, and it's absolutely perfect to actually have. That team is fairly squishy, especially without a healer, which you're not going to be having inside of the team itself. So with that extra shield, it will come in handy, especially when you do need that. Lastly, her kit also heavily relies on EHR to deal the most of her debuffs and damage that she can possibly do, such as defense debuffs, damage taken debuffs, and more. Almost forgot this as well. She does actually have an advanced attack, or at least an enhanced attack here when it comes down to her skill 3, which is going to be based on the amount of extinguished powers that you do have, seeing that it goes all the way up to 4 at max when you have her at A0. You will then be able to use the skill 3 once again, changing the effects drastically to the skill 3 and doing even more so better debuffs for at least your team itself to help you take down the enemy at hand. So you might want to go ahead and pay attention to that as much as possible when you are utilizing this character. But now we went over at least the kit explanation, let's go ahead and check out the dupe. But when it comes down to at least Matoi here, I would highly say the dupes are amazing to get for her, but you can still get a lot out of her use, or at least a lot usage out of her with no dupes just like me. So let's go ahead and check them out. At A0 here, Matoi actually has skills that can deal ice technical damage, which is all part of her basic type deal here. But with this in mind here, at the start of each turn, she will gain herself 1 stack of extinguishing power up to 4 whole stacks. And when she does consume extinguishing power using bursting waterfall here, it will actually inflict all enemies with 1 stack of drowning, in which for every 1 stack of extinguishing power that you have used, you will get that 1 stack of drowning, which also helps you out quite a lot. Then of course we have the A1. This additionally will gain 1 whole stack of extinguishing power, so now you no longer will have just nothing to start off with. You get an extra stack that you have immediately whenever you do use the move Echoing Tide. This increases all enemies crit damage taken by 30% when consuming extinguishing power for 2 whole turns. Then of course we have the A2. When consuming extinguishing power, it will then increase all allies' attack power by 20%. But not only this, it also increases the defense by 30% and a whopping damage dealt by 15 whole percent here when it comes down to 2 whole turns. So this isn't going to be for 1 turn, it's going to be for 2 whole turns, which is actually pretty darn good for an A2. Though she is on the debuffing side, so do keep that in mind. Then of course we have the A4 being the highlight improvement here. This at least extends the damage taken effect by 1 whole turn, increasing the base chance to trigger Ice Seal to 40%, which Ice Seal isn't really the best of things. On normal mobs it is, but on boss monsters it doesn't really trigger. So this A4 is pretty okay, but nothing too stellar. But then we have the big boy. But lastly, at A6 here, at the start of Matoi's turn, if any enemy is inflicted with burn, she will immediately use Echoing Tide on the main target, aka Fading Flame will not trigger this effect. Though of course once she does use this here, whenever using Bursting Waterfall or even Bursting Tornado, this attack, at least to the same target here, that is, when you attack the same target, it will then increase the target's damage taken by 25% for 1 whole turn. Now that may sound very lackluster, but that 1 turn means a ton of damage you can really get out, and that's going to be amazing that you really want to be able to do You can do this at least multiple times throughout at least the whole battle, so do keep that in mind as well. This also increases the cap of drowning to 6 whole stacks. So now you no longer have that 4 stack, you now have 6 whole stacks, which can help you have a little bit left over whenever you do utilize, of course, your skill 3 enhanced version. So instead of using all 4, you now have a 2 extra on the end here that can help you build up to your next one. Now, of course, that we've now went over all of the little dupes and things of that nature, let's go ahead and move on to the next skill priority. So when it comes down to the skill priority for Matoi, it's pretty straightforward, seeing that you really only utilize her skill 3 and her skill 1 for the most part, with a little bit of help from our highlight. So just mainly focus on this order, and you guys should see it on the screen as well here. So the first thing that you want to go ahead and focus on is the skill 3 into the skill 1, going into combat skills, aka your highlight damage and things of that nature, and then lastly going into the skill 2. This will help you not only manage your overall materials that you do need to utilize if you do decide to go ahead and flower up some of these little skill effects, but it also just helps you get the best out of Matoi. So if you want to be a completionist or have like the extra flowers and you just don't mind spending them, of course you can go ahead and tend all of your skill effects, and that really won't hurt you that much at all, besides the skill 2 that is. But now we went over that, let's go over the weapon option. All right, so regarding the weapon options here, we're actually very lucky that this character doesn't need her 5-star weapon. She luckily has a 4-star weapon that is pretty darn good to use in account instead of actually using her 5-star weapon. So we're gonna go ahead and break down both of these here, but we're gonna do the 4-star weapon first. Now the 4-star weapon, which is called Thorn of Deep, increases attack by 12% at base with a max of 24% immediately. Now this is pretty darn good no matter how you want to look at it, especially for a debuffer, seeing either way you're going to be helping out your attack potential here. But alongside this here, the 4-star weapon itself has one more additional effect, that for every 1 stack of extinguishing power that you have, which you will have this type thing on you, she'll increase her EHR by 6% at base, going to a max of 11.4% at max. This is actually really good for her to utilize here. It's alone enough for this character, especially when you do need the things in and out of battle at hand. So really you don't have to worry about utilizing any other type of weapon, where especially when it comes down to the 5-star weapon. But of course, if you want a little bit of the extra side of things, we can go ahead and take a look at the 5-star weapon itself as well. So checking out the 5-star weapon here, it's actually called the Freezing Fort. This nearly doubles, if not triples, the EHR that she can end up gaining, with a base of at least 36% EHR, going up to a max of 69% EHR. Now this is it as well, of course, out of battle here, but in battle, she also increases the attack based on the percent of EHR that you have, at base being around 66% up to a max of 72%. This weapon really comes in handy with its additional effect as well. It's not as like insane, but it still does help you out a lot here. So with the additional effect that we're going to be going over here, whenever dealing an ice technical here, it'll additionally then decrease the targets that she's actually targeting here by their defense of 23.3%. So they're immediately getting nerfed by 23.3% of their defense here at base, with a max of 44.3% for 2 whole turns. Both of these weapons have their great type of upsides to them, no real downsides to them, but you can honestly go ahead and just skip the 4, or at least the 5-star weapon if you do want to, and use the 4-star weapon, which will be a little bit more helpful for you, especially if you're just trying to save some pulls for anniversary and or Akechi. Let's move on to the best gear set. As for Matoi's best gear set here, she only has really one option, and that is being the fertility and faith set. This all in all is going to help out her overall EHR and the amount of damage that she can deal, especially when it comes down to contributing to her technicals. For example, the 4-piece futility starts as a 2-piece, which increases the attack by 12%. Then as the 4-piece set here, it will then increase the EHR by 30% for 2 whole turns. Now this is something that you're going to have for a little bit of time, so of course you want to make the best out of it, of course. So surely do keep that in mind. Then of course you will then gain an effect once again whenever you deal the technical. So that whole 2-turn thing, yeah, it just keeps on refreshing, allowing you to overall keep this effect for the entire match. So you really don't have to worry about, oh, I'm gonna run out of time for all of this type of buffing and stuff like that. No, you will have this the entire time as long as you keep doing the technical, which you're usually going to be hitting these all the time. But then you want to take into account, we still have the universal card to go alongside it. So with the universal or at least card that we ended up going over, aka Fate here, by having this effect all together here, it will then increase the thieves damage dealt to enemies under the technical element. So whenever you have, of course, that technical element on them, of course, you're then able to decrease or at least increase your damage dealt by a whopping 10%. Now, this cannot be triggered again, which is kind of saddening, but it is staying for the entire match. This will only help you all the time. It won't really at least defer any type of help at that end of things. It actually helps you throughout the entire match itself. So even with this in mind, it's still her best set effect, but we're going to still check out the main stats and the sub stats needed. So checking out the main stats first here, we're going to want this on the fertility card set here, being that damage bonus is going to be on the moon. Of course, I'm not going to go over the HP stat because HP is always on the sun. It's always going to be there, so you don't have to really worry about that. But damage bonus percent will always be on the moon. The EHR percent will be on the star. And then lastly, you will have attack percent on the planet. This will have her pretty much set up to be perfect right away. But the hard part is going to come down to at least the substats at hand. The substat that you would like to get, or at least really want as your optimal amount, is going to be EHR percent, crit rate percentage, crit damage percentage, and damage bonus percentage or attack percentage when it does come down to this. It's pretty much straightforward, just like Howler's build, so try to do something similar. Essentially, your main important thing is going to be that EHR though, so really do try to focus on that. But out of battle, you want to have yourself 8,000 minimum HP right there. Of course, you want, if you can get more, that's always great, but 8,000 minimum, and then 110 EHR out of battle. But while in battle, you want to make sure you have 8,000 minimum HP with a whopping 171% EHR. So surely do keep that in mind and make sure you can hit those actual marks to get the best out of this character. But now that we went over this, let's go ahead and move on to the final part of the video. Finally, going over the best team comps here. This is the last part of the video, and I am sorry that it's taken so long, but Matoi herself can actually only be ran with one specific DPS. The rest of her team can actually change fairly a decent bit here, so I'll be sure to go over at least the meta side of things first, and then we're going to go ahead and go over the free-to-play side of things. Now, you guys should be able to see both of the teams immediately on the screen right here, in which it's going to be showing Chinese New Year Ren for the meta team here, Howler being your secondary debuffer, and Futaba helping out your crit abilities. This is going to be hands down the most premium team that you can get here. Pretty much only having Howler be your only standard character that you can actually get out of there. The rest are all limited characters and it is her best in slot team. Though of course, if you're not at least able to have this team itself here, don't worry, there is a free to play side of things here that you also can see down below, which still you will need to use Chinese New Year Ren. So if you don't have Chinese New Year Ren, one, you shouldn't be pulling for this character. It's not really going to help you out that much long run, but of course if you still pull for it, then that's on you. Her main DPS is going to be the Chinese New Year Ren. Once again, as a replacement for Howler, you will end up using Key, which is a 4-star character, easily can get and easily dupe them out, and then Phoebe as a replacement for Futaba. But unlike for Phoebe, or at least Futaba, where you have the crit possibilities here, we're not really getting that crit possibilities. We're really getting more of an offensive buff overall, where there's just attack and things like that to really help out your damage capabilities. But alongside this, it actually does help you out for the chalices that Phoebe do provide, seeing that you will pretty much have nearly a whole mono fire team, which can help you out with the chalices at hand. Just be sure to make sure you have a fire persona on Wonder. This will really help you out, especially when it comes down to getting Phoebe naturally up with that in mind. Now to go ahead and end off things here, once again, I do apologize for you guys who actually were waiting on this guide for so long. It did take me a long time to go ahead and do this, and especially after recording and then editing this one by myself, it was fairly annoying to deal with here. But once we got this done, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the next one, so you guys don't have to wait too long on that one. So do be patient with me. But till then, thank you guys all for watching. Be sure to check out the Discord down below in the description. Until next time, everybody, peace out.